This is Sean with Voices Live On. This is a division of Nashville, Indiana Stories and Southern Indiana, and we have a legend on the phone in radio in Central Indiana, which is now the program director down in Bloomington. Rick Evans, how are you doing today? And just give us a little bit of background of your station.
Great, Sean. I'm doing fine. Thank you for talking today. I appreciate it very much. Background of the radio station: WHCC has been on the air for close to 30 years. It started life as WGCT. Lived there as that call letter at 105.1 for a couple of years, and then switched to WHCC when we became an IU sports affiliate. And ever since then, it's been WHCC and Hoosier Country 105. Home of the Cream and Crimson is actually what the call letters stand for. And I'm thankful enough to be the only host that or the only program director that the radio stations ever have. There's been plenty of hosts, but I've been the only morning person. I've had different partners with me at times, but I seem to be the person who's kind of stayed the longest and been here ever since the beginning of this radio station.
And your slot is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Is that your daily slot, and how many days a week?
That's me, 6 to 10, Monday through Friday.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do a little bit of your story, but this is going to be for what we're growing is NashvilleIndianaStories.com and also Southern Indiana. And the purpose is to have people's life stories and save them, but also do business histories. And so people can showcase that they've, had their moments in Southern Indiana and the history of what they've been able to enjoy. And our connection actually was Rich Hardesty. How long have you known Rich? And I'll give a little bit of the backstory of how he and I got reconnected in Beauduc.
Oh, wow. Rich Hardesty. How long have I known Rich? That's a great question, because I knew Rich Hardesty long before Rich Hardesty knew me, but I think a lot of people are that way. A lot of people saw Rich playing many years ago, as he was a fixture in Bloomington and all over Southern Indiana, and he just branched out. He's an incredible entertainer, and it was much later when I got to actually meet Rich and start to interact and kind of make him part of the radio station. We're playing some of his songs on the radio now as part of our local music categories, and he comes out and entertains at one of our tailgate shows every year. We broadcast live before every IU football game, and we have live music there, and Rich is part of that. He's a fun guy, a fixture in South Central Indiana, so it's that's almost a trick question. I think I've known Rich for 30 years. He's only known me for 3 or 4,
That's ironic. I actually met him 30 years ago in '93 when we booked him up at Ball State at my fraternity, and we've been buds since. But about a year ago this weekend is the International Race Convention downtown Indy, and we were doing race legends stories there and happened to interview Bo Duke. And I told Rich about it, and he had the idea, well, why don't we do a little show with the Bluebird in Bloomington and do the Dukes of Hazzard theme song with the crowd and send it to Bo. So that's how Rich and I got reacclimated and started this road of saving businesses stories, like, for instance, the Grandwood Suites. We've done those guys, and also the steakhouse there in Nashville. But the purpose is that they get cards to be able to share their story to the public, and also saving local legends. But you're a legend in 2 different areas, one on air with Common Radio and also the IndyCar radio network since 2004. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I was at maybe the legend part. That might be a stretch, but I've been on the air for a long time in Bloomington, and then with IndyCar Radio Network, I'm very much behind the scenes. Other than some commercial work that I do for them, the only place you would hear my name on a broadcast is at the very end in the final credits of the race broadcast as chief engineer. But I've been very lucky to be with them for 19 years now and producing races. I've been the chief engineer there for, I think, 14 of those 19 years. And I'm kind of responsible for making sure that the incredible talent that they have across the network. And when you're looking at like an Indy 500 broadcast with millions of listeners, you've got maybe, 14 or 15 different microphones, effects, commercials, and all that gets mixed and then sent out to the radio affiliates. You've got the streaming people that are listening, people listening on the app and everywhere else. And with that job, it's my job to just make sure all the audio gets to the right place and sounds good when it gets there.
Well, you're on the front end. I've been lucky to be on the back end and saving the stories of a lot of race legends. An example is the Unser family. If anybody wants to go check this out, it's pretty great. It's unserstories.com. But they had me interview Mario Andretti and Michael Andretti and almost 50 individuals about all their memories of the Unsers. So it's been a cool path on my end to also get the legends and the stories of the drivers behind the scenes and the endorsements from the people that work with them. But to hear from Mario Andretti talk about play-by-play moments with Bobby Unser and everything else was pretty phenomenal. I'm sure you appreciate that as well.
I very much appreciate that. And that's just the coolest thing. I get a chance to talk to Mario Andretti on rare occasion. And as long as I've been in this business, when I talk to Mario Andretti, it scares me to death. I get as nervous as I could be. I can't imagine what you might have felt like trying to interview him, although he is the nicest person you'll meet. And I see Doug Bowles is on your list too. And again, just a wonderful class individual. And it's cool to go through all that audio and the video and everything you've put together, because there's a lot of fantastic stories there.
It's almost 1,000 minutes, literally, of 49 different. I mean, it took months, and it was for Unser Jr.'s 60th birthday, and I didn't know it going into it, but I ended up emceeing his birthday event downtown, and he was standing next to me as I'm bringing up the interviews on screen. And the funniest one was Huey Lewis, because Huey Lewis now is deaf, and I don't know if people realize that he has an ear disease, so he can't like do a video call interview. So we had to have his publicist put together something for him. And we also learned that Unser Jr. used to basically crash his concerts and get on stage, and Huey would only let him play the cowbell. So I brought that up at his birthday in front of everybody, that he used to party with rock stars, but he can only play the cowbell, and he was cracking up and giving me fist bumps and everything else. But anyway, so we're jumping into your past. Kokomo, this was back in what year, 1991?
Yeah, right around in there, 1991 maybe. That was a long time ago. I had more hair. I was a lot skinnier, and I was having a good time and not making any money whatsoever, being very poor, working in small town radio. But it was a fun time, and I learned a lot and met a lot of people that I really appreciated. That was a top 40 station, Z93 in Kokomo. Now it's known as Z92.5. They went through a frequency change. Their sister station is WIOU. That was my first full-time job in radio. I worked there for maybe a year or so on the oldie station as the evening host, and it was very successful for a small AM radio station. That was pre-computers, but they did have automation, and they decided to kind of, I guess it was a cost-saving move, ditch the entire staff and replace it with an automated system that was fed in via satellite. I was lucky enough they kept me and moved me to the top 40 stations. I went from oldies to top 40 and worked there at Z93. And again, it was a great time, and I learned a lot, and I met my wife while I was in Kokomo too. So I certainly have fond memories of Kokomo. We're
going to talk about Tammy in a second, but isn't there somebody in this photograph that might have been a new kid on the block? Did you
He was close to a new kid on the block. The guy in the center there, his name is Rick West, and he was the producer's next big thing, the guy that produced and put together kind of New Kids on the Block. That's him on a radio tour as he was taking young Mr. West out. And if you go online, you can find some songs of his, like I think North, South, East, West was maybe his single they were trying to break him out on. And unfortunately, I don't think the single ever really happened. But that was in the day when if you wanted to go meet radio people, you couldn't really have a Zoom call. If you wanted to meet your artist and have your artist meet the staff, you had to drive, and you would get radio tours back then of artists coming out to meet you and wanted you to play their record. And we did play his record.
That's phenomenal. So I'm going to give you some kudos here. You were in a mini marathon at your 25-year anniversary in Las Vegas, and you got married in the middle of the mini marathon. Let's talk about that.
All right. Yeah, we got remarried. We renewed our vows in the middle of the marathon. We're both in that picture. We were both 50 years old. We were celebrating our 25th anniversary. So we did it by doing a half marathon, and at the halfway point, we renewed our vows. So it was a half. We'd been married half our lives and ran a half marathon. Unfortunately, Tammy broke her ankle. Maybe 2 months before, while we were training for the half marathon. So it wasn't a very fast half marathon, but we went through it, and we had a wonderful time, and we'll always remember that. It was a lot of fun.
I think that's a big win, and it really doesn't matter if you win anything on the tables out in Vegas.
Yeah, it's Vegas. We didn't win much, but we certainly had a good time.
All right, so here's a shot of your family and kids. So if you'd like to just describe their names, what they do, what their industries are, how old they are, and just give them a little bit of background.
Sure, I can. I'm going to start as you're looking at the picture. It would be on the left-hand side. That's my oldest. That's Zach in the black. Zach is a junior high teacher, but coaches high school cross country and track at Edgewood. And then next to him in the peach is my youngest. That's Abby Kate. And Abby Kate is a student at Bellarmine University. And then on the other side of me, the person who's going to kill me for handing you this picture is my daughter, Macy. And I don't know what she was picking up. They caught her mid-shot, and and she's really not happy that I shared that picture with anyone. She usually does not, stand like that. But she is actually in radio as well. She does mornings on my sister station here, B97, and middays on the country station here, Hoosier Country 105. So I get to spend a lot of time with Macy. She's a George Washington graduate university.
I think she would be a fun interview to get her perspective of you.
And Dad, she'll say he's the guy that sends out terrible pictures of me. She's blonde now, by the way. That hairstyle has totally changed. She's my child that changes hairstyles pretty much monthly, it seems.
What's the picture? Sometimes. Where are you guys at? What park is this? There's a lot of different areas to hike down there.
I'm thinking that one might be at Turkey Run State Park. And then in the red next to Macy, that's Cole Evans. He's my second oldest, and he is a meteorologist for the National Weather Service stationed in Pendleton, Oregon right now. So, and he went to Valpo, got his master's at IU before joining the National Weather Service. Yeah, we try as much as we can to get out and enjoy Southern Indiana. I mean, we are lucky, and that's one of the reasons I love Bloomington so much, is because if you go in any direction, you've got McCormick's Creek State Park, of course, Brown County State Park there, part of Nashville. You go to the south, you've got Spring Mill State Park, the Hoosier National Forest, Yellowwood State Forest. There's so much going on here, Sean. The TC Steele State Historic Site on your way between Bloomington and Nashville, and then Nashville itself, of course. We couldn't live in a better place, I don't think.
Yeah, I've been coming down there since I was a kid, Boy Scouts, and just going down there with the family for the Christmas trees. And then when we ran Yellow Book, that whole territory down there, every single summer, we're working Nashville, Bloomington area, Columbus area. And so I got to meet a lot of the businesses back in the day, but it's cool now to help save their stories for the public. And here's a very good cause organization, St. Jude. You do an annual radio telethon, is that right? And how many years have they been doing it, and how much did you guys raise over the past few years?
We've been doing this around 20 years, maybe somewhere 15 to 20 years. I can't remember exactly. When we started out, I think maybe the first year we raised $18,000 in a 2-day event. And I believe last year we raised $105,000 in the 2-day event. So it's grown as we've gone through the years. Absolutely love St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It's my favorite charity. They do a whole lot to not only to help kids that are there, but it's a place where they discover how to treat kids. It's very likely if a child is at any children's hospital anywhere, not only in the United States, but in the world, it's very likely they are being treated for cancer using a St. Jude protocol. It's an actual research hospital and not just a hospital. So they find the cures there. And we work very hard here at this radio station to help out St. Jude. And that's always one of the highlights of my entire year, is getting to stand with the big check and take the pictures at how much all these great people in South Central Indiana kind of open up their hearts and their wallets and give to such a great cause.
I want to give a personal testimonial to honor one of my best friends and his deceased daughter. She was 2 years old, and his wife, Heather, was also pregnant with their second, and they found out at 2 that she had leukemia. And it basically was one of the most rarest forms. They had to live in multiple states. They ended up at St. Jude, and it was, the year of her passing away was also the year of their firstborn or their secondborn becoming alive. So they couldn't even be in the same city or area around each other because of, the possibility of the newborn, affecting the one that's having cancer. And St. Jude did a lot for them, and it helped them get through it. So I got to see it firsthand with one of my best friends. So that's great that you guys help. We're going to change gears a little bit to little IU basketball. Let's talk about these guys and just you being able to be involved in the IU sport realm.
IU Sports, yeah. This radio station is the flagship station for IU Sports, for IU men's basketball, for IU football, and for IU baseball. We've just recently moved our IU women's basketball broadcasts over to our sister station, B97. I was doing a live remote on Kirkwood Avenue for the grand opening of a store there, and I was lucky enough to do that remote with that's Anthony Leal in the red, CJ Gunn, and Trey Galloway, 3 of the players of the IU basketball team this year that are hopefully going to get us a win here more real soon. They're off to a good start on the young season, and I've been really, really lucky to be able to be around this because there are so many great names and so many athletes, coaches, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, who's been on the air calling IU basketball and football games since I think 72, 72, because he celebrated his 50th year anniversary, the 50th year of broadcasting just last year. And I'm lucky enough to call him a friend. He's met absolutely everyone, and it's afforded me the ability to get to know folks like Coach Terry Hepner, who we lost to brain cancer, and many coaches and players. We've had players in the past here at the radio station that were interns. We have an internship program here, and a lot of course, the athletes are IU students. So I've gotten to know quite a few, and it's been a lot of fun, that's for sure.
So are you familiar with some of the Hall of Famers of IU basketball, specifically Archie Dees? Have you ever heard of Archie Dees before?
Of course we've heard of Archie Dees. Yeah, no doubt.
So his son Eric is going to love that I'm bringing him up right now. Eric and I have been buds for a long time, and he lives down in Bloomington now. He lived up in Indianapolis, but he's told me many a story and he literally grew up next to Bobby Knight. So there's still some people on that national winning team that are alive, that there was an undefeated record back in the 70s. I'm not sure if it's 73 or 74 or later.
76. Yep. And Mike Woodson is on that team, and he coaches our Hoosiers right now. Yeah.
Right. So we might be able to talk to Eric and have him tell some first-person Archie stories, in the future. All right. So let's talk about your other side of the coin, which is IndyCar Radio Network, and these guys in the IMS media room at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, that's part of the behind the scenes crew for an Indianapolis 500 radio network broadcast. Right there next to me, I'm the one in the oddball wearing black. Next to me is Wally Levitt. Wally Levitt is why I am working there. He was a general manager at this radio station at B97 when I first started back maybe in the first couple of years. He was also he ran the IU Sports Network and the Purdue Sports Network when our radio company owned those networks. Those are now owned by Learfield. But Wally ran those networks. He was here in Bloomington, and then he eventually left and ended up with IndyCar. And that's when I got the call from Wally saying, hey, are you interested in a job? And I started working up there. Paul Levitt is next to him. That's his son. Paul is still currently, now Wally's retired from IndyCar. Paul is my RF engineer for the Indy 500 broadcasts. Next to him is Chris Pollock. Chris took Wally's job, and he is now the general manager of the IndyCar radio network. And I'm privileged to be able to call those folks friends and to be able to work with them because it's a tight-knit crew and a very talented bunch of people up there for sure.
Well, everybody that loves racing and lives in Indy or in the state, you know, they've had different experiences, different cool moments with different drivers or different teams and maybe getting autographed. So I'd like you to give me your favorite 2 to 3 interactions with top legends. What was the situation? What were you able to talk about? And if it was off air, if it was on air, just kind of describe that.
Wow. Well, I don't interact with many people on air when it comes to IndyCar. I'm very much behind the scenes in that. I've done a lot of recording of people, and I'm basically working with the wires and the networks and things like that to make that happen. But I've been lucky enough to just be in the right place at the right time. I rode up the elevator in the media center with Will Power after he almost got bumped out of an Indy 500 and was able to bump his way back into the field. And I was always a little worried because Will Power is kind of a feisty dude. And so it's just me and him on the elevator, nobody else. And I just said, congratulations. And he was the nicest guy in the world. I thought maybe I was going to get like, you know, what would you know about that? I didn't. I got, oh man, I can't believe it. It was incredible. I didn't think I was going to make it. I mean, he was just the nicest guy. Danica Patrick, I will always remember her. She has no idea who I am, but we were walking into the media center at the Chicago Speedway one time, and I was right in front of her, got to the door right before she did. I opened the door and held the door open for her, and she looked at me, smiled, and gave me one of those little friendly gut punches and said, I'm not that kind of girl. Geez, and walked on through. I was a big fan of her ever since then. She was just super nice. Boy, so many people. It's hard to pull them all out, but probably I would have to go with just that radio crew, the turn guys and everything else. I'm such a fan of what they do from Mark Janes and Nick Yeoman and Michael Young and Jake Query, all the regulars on our broadcast up there. When those guys start throwing that sound all around the track, because you know they follow the cars, and Mark will be in the tower and he says, and now they're off to turn 1, and they call it through 1 and then to 2. If you've not heard that, I think you're in for something special. And here in Indiana, that's how we kind of grow up getting to know the Indy 500, because it's not on TV. It's very much a radio event. It happens on Memorial Day weekend, so it's a Sunday. We're usually camping. I would love to know how many people have heard the Indy 500 at Brown County State Park, you know, because you're camping, but you want to keep up with the Indy 500. You turn on the radio, and that's how that race comes to you. I think it's a fun thing and a very special thing, a special part of Indiana, and I'm super lucky to be anywhere near it, you know?
That's great. All right. So what are some of your, I would say, favorites, places and businesses that you deal with in Bloomington and Nashville. I know that's kind of a general thing, but if you were going to kind of name drop some things that have been around for a while, well, what are some of your favorite spots to go to?
Wow. I will always love the Nashville House right there, downtown Nashville. I was sad when it closed, and I was so joyed when it reopened again. When I was a very, very, very small child, I remember going there, getting fried chicken and biscuits and apple butter. And that was a very special treat. We did not have a lot of money when I grew up, and eating out like that was a big deal to go to Nashville. And I grew up in Indianapolis. To be able to go down there with a whole family and eat at the Nashville House and just eat my fill of fried biscuits and apple butter was just amazing. And I get a nice warm feeling every time I look at that place. I remember, as you go into the north entrance of Brown County State Park, if you go in there where the covered bridge is, and then immediately you hit a huge hill. We camped a lot when I was a kid. I remember always having my bicycle, and the first time I hit 50 miles an hour on a bicycle was coming down that hill. I had a speedometer on the bike, and just because I wasn't very bright, those was in the days of, it wasn't a racing bike by any means, and it was probably a very dumb thing for me to do. But it was really cool. I always think of hitting 50 on that hill. I also think of approaching that hill with a skateboard one time, starting down it, and having a park ranger stop and tell me, "What are you doing, you idiot?" And made me go back and promise to never be on that hill again on a skateboard. So there's a couple of things right there next to Nashville, for sure, that always jog my mind every time I go near them.
All right, so kind of back to the purpose of this. What do you think about what we're trying to accomplish as far as doing the business histories, either face-to-face or kind of like a remote call like this, and incorporating, not just the people that work there, but also people that they affect, and then maybe even sponsoring Saving a Local Legend's life story so that can be shared and coupled with the business. What do you think about that concept?
Yeah, I think it's a great concept because a lot of things are just not going to be around forever. We always think that they're going to be around forever. And, when I first met you and you were telling me about this concept, all I could think was, man, I lost my dad a few years ago. I lost my father-in-law just a couple years ago. And both of them, I meant to sit down because I'm an audio guy. I'm a recording guy. And there's so many stories. And I think, I'm one of these days here, I'm going to sit down with them, and I'm going to sit down with a recorder. I'm going to interview them, and I'm going to get all those stories that they tell, because we all have stories. I mean, that's what our life is, and an accumulation of experiences. And you think, I'm going to record those stories so I can pass those down to my kids and their kids. And you know what? We just don't get it done. And I didn't get it done with either of those two. And it makes me sad. And then when I talked to you and you were telling me, hey, this is what I do, I thought, this is just a brilliant idea. You're doing it for the people who don't get it done, which is 99.9% of us. We don't get it done. We don't save it. And you become like an archive and a point where all these stories exist long beyond the people and the businesses who actually made the stories. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, and how we've kind of made it a little high tech is we end up building a page for the family. And even if somebody's gone, just like the Unsers, you can interview the entire family about all their memories of seniors that are alive and honoring people that have passed. You can get the collective knowledge from each person's perspective, as well as doing somebody's life stories or, a business history, so they can share it with, the people that come in their spot or digitally. But it was really a big aha moment when COVID hit. And, kind of started and really getting going in 19. And then all of a sudden you couldn't be with anybody face to face, and started doing a lot over the phone of the collective memories of the family members to leave access to grandma, or give her access anytime she wants, so she can listen or watch each person's perspective while, she's isolated on her couch in the retirement community or wherever.
Sure.
So that was a lot bigger of an aha. And it's good to get their stories for later, but it's better for them to enjoy the impact they've made on people's lives now. And that's the thing I've really learned from this process, and looking forward to continuing this down in Nashville, expanding into Bloomington and other areas. But Rick, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close this one out?
No, just that I think you're doing a great service. I think this is a lot of fun, and I think that people are going to open up to you. You're easy to talk to, and they're going to learn things after a conversation that they've seen with you that they may not even know if they actually know that person and get to talk to them every day, you know?
Well, I really appreciate that. And part of the goal is to find some people down there that would also like to be story guides and help save the stories of the land. So you might know some people, or as we go down this road, it'd be great to get referred to some people that like to be involved.
We can certainly do that. Absolutely. Good luck, and love that you're doing this. Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate it too. And you've had one heck of a career, and, teaching the people about the everyday, what's going on in the community, but also putting your own spice and personality into it. And that's what really motivates people. So I thank you for your service.
I'm lucky to be here. Thank you, sir.
You got it. All right, we'll just stay on the line. I'm going to close this one out.